Installing Butler's Desk Hardware Part 2. Please visit my website at www.americanfederalperiod.com. Inletting for the Butler sketch requires that you first get the front edge here flush with the front edge of the pull-out section so that you can hold it in place and scribe for this decorative cut here at the rear. But complicating that is the fact that there's this spring mechanism on the back that when you push in allows for that catch to slide out of the way. Now the width of that recess for that spring mechanism has to be very tightly controlled because you can see just how close the screw holes are to that here at the back and on each side. So I'm going to have to carefully measure for that and not go any wider or deeper than I need to. But now the depth into the thickness of the side of the pull-out section, that's not real critical because this has quite a extensive lip here on it. So I'm going to press the spring down and measure this distance here between the face of the plate and that little projection of that spring catch there, and add about a 1/16 to that and cut the recess to that depth with a plunge router fitted with fitted to the shop vac to carry away the dust. Here's a close-up of the layout for that recess. I did it with a Sharpie for maximum visibility. The router and I are barely on speaking terms, and so whenever I use one I always make a very careful layout because the visibility through the base plate is limited. I wanted to have a nice dark line, and I also put this cross hatching in here because I've been known to route on the wrong side of the line, and this eliminates that possibility. Now with that groove routed, I can go ahead and scribe for the lip, but I can't just hold it in place like this because the underneath side of the catch's plate is resting on the surface and it wouldn't be scribed deep enough. So I've set up this marking gauge to cut that, and it probably would have been smarter to do this before I routed the recess because now I'm going to have to ride over that, and that's going to make it a little less straight than it should be, but this will be good enough to do this with. And I don't want to overcut, so I'm being very careful not to slide past where I need to be. And that line that's leaving is so small you probably won't be able to see that on the camera. And now I'm going to hold the catch in place, and just in case the sides aren't square, I think these will be because this is a more or less machine made piece, but just to be sure I'll hold that in there and scribe along that, and I'll deepen those lines so that I can see them because at this point I can hardly see them. And then I'll just use a chisel and do it like you would a hinge. I'll come in and raise a chip around the edges to define it, then go straight down with the chisel, then do a series of diagonal cuts going in, and then chisel out from the side here like this. And this doesn't have to be done with extraordinary accuracy because the screws are going to hold it in place, so I'm actually going to probably overcut it just slightly as far as the depth on that lip is concerned. The recess has been routed, and I made some minor adjustments with the carving gouges to accommodate the bulging areas here. You can see two spots right there that I did that, and I did take some out of the back with a carving chisel. In fact, I don't have all the debris cleaned out. I don't think that'll matter, but I'll get it out of there. And now it fits in there nice and flush. Well, actually, it's still not quite what I would call flush because you can see here as I push down at the end, it's riding forward. So it's contacting somewhere, but I'm not sure where. And I don't want to go off half-cocked and start just willy-nilly chiseling areas out. I want to make sure I know where it is hitting. And it feels like it's hitting right here. Right there. Let's see if that helped any. Yeah, now it goes back flush there on the front. Well, it's still not quite flush. Oh, I know what's keeping it from going back flush. This has been forged to shape, and see how it's rounded right in there? Well, I've got a sharp corner here, so let me take a chisel. Sorry about my hand placement here while I do this. And I don't need to be careful with this. I can just chip a piece out. Okay, now we're nice and flush at the front. I think, and I don't know if the camera can pick this up, but I think that this lip here is not bent at a right angle. It's riding out like that. So at the bottom it's not flush right now, but I can make that flush by putting it in a vise and giving it a little bend. So now I've got to carefully scribe around this thing, and I'm going to do that with a scalpel. And I want to make sure that I don't overcut, run past my cuts where I would scratch the surface, and that would be impossible really to fix. And now it's going to be very hard for me to scribe this without getting in the way of the camera. And this is one that has a lot of potential for jumping off the groove or jumping off the edge and scratching the surface, especially when you cut in this direction like that. But I want to go over it a couple times so that I know that I got it deep enough that I can see exactly what I'm doing. And there, I got a little bit off my line, but thank God it was for the underneath side. And now, well, those are very fine lines, and in this light here I can't see them at all, so I'm going to have to set up a different lighting system here so that I can accurately chisel out that waist. I put an oblique light behind the subject, then I think it highlights the scribe lines quite well. I'm going to wear a magnifying visor while I do this so I can see exactly what's going on, and I'm going to use a Dremel tool fitted with a 7/64 inch diameter carbide end mill to do the routing, and I'm going to get as close as I can to the layout lines, and I've already set everything up, and I think I can do it with the camera running, and you can see at least part of it anyways.